So here I've already cut out my yoke pattern. Okay, so if you're embarking on this project, you must have cut your yoke pattern and you have cut your mesh. So this is the mesh. It's an illusion mesh I'm using for this class. So this is how I cut it, and I added 0.5-inch seam allowance all around. So this is the center front, meaning that my yoke will be sewn to the corset. So it's actually a V yoke neckline we are sewing right here. So I want to show you how to go about it. So I cut 2 pieces of the yoke each. So two pieces of it, and this is how I'm going to sew it right here. So I'll be showing you right now how to go about it. We'll be going to the machine to sew this yoke. So I will be sharing with you the tips and tricks to sewing your yoke perfectly. Alright, so this is my yoke. So the first thing I'm going to do is to run a basting stitch. So the basting stitch is just to hold the two together. Okay, so now I have the down part of my yoke. So you can see I did not back stitch, so please ensure you don't back stitch. So I have my yoke right now laying nice and flat. That is the down part of the yoke. So I'll come in with the corset now. This is the corset. So after running the basting stitch, this is the part of the corset that the yoke that will lay at the mid center front. So now I'm going to lay it this way. So if I'm done sewing, this is how it's supposed to be. So that means from the center front, I'll flip it this way. From the center front right here, I'll start pinning. So I'm going to pin. I'm not starting the tip of it. If you start from the tip of it, by this time you sew, you have your yoke somewhere far away. So you have to bring in this about 1/2 inch from the center front. You can see what I did there, about 1/2 inch, and match it up. You can see the tip of it, 1/2 inch. I'll match with my pins. So before I sew, I always ensure I pin in a way I can sew on top. So you can see how I'm doing that now. So now I'm done pinning, as you can see. So once I'm done pinning, I'll start from the armhole part to sew. So I just go ahead and drop my presser foot, and I'm sewing right on top of the basting stitches. So you can see my basting stitches. So I'll go ahead, I'll keep sewing. Like I said, I'm sewing right on top of my pins, like this, like that. So I just get to the center this way and back stitch at that point. So once I'm done sewing this one, I'll come back to the center front and I'll pin like this. So you can see me pinning this way. So I'll overlap that part. I'm overlapping that part, as you can see. So I'll just come down a little and overlap, then I'll pin just like I did in the other one. So I'm done pinning right now, so I'll start sewing from where I stopped. So I'll drop my presser foot once again. So you can see I always sew on top of my yoke. Okay, so that is one of the tips. You need to sew on top of your yoke, and make sure you align your yoke to follow the shape of the cup. So you can also pin in a way you can sew on top of your pins. So I'm just trying to adjust this so it lays well for me. So I'm done right now. So now you can see I've turned it to the right side. So you can see the excess overlapping pieces when we turned it and overlapped it. So that is how to actually sew your corset. So now the next thing is to flip to this part, because we want to sew our lining to it. But before you do that, you need to make little snip notches only on the same lines. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm notching only on the same lines, so it relaxes nice and flat for you, as you can see. So these notches are very important. So I'm done with it now. So next, you can see how I flip my yoke. So I'll go ahead and pin, lay the lining on top, and I'll start pinning from the center line. So when you are pinning, ensure you have this. Can you see I'm crossing it over before I place? Okay, so I'm crossing it over before I place, and I make sure I have this on this line as well. So I'll just secure with my pin and run my pins around, then I sew. All right, so now I'm done pinning my lining, and I'm going to sew the yoke. Okay, so I'm sewing from the part I have my stitches already. So you can see I have my stitches already, so I'll just follow the stitching line. So as I'm sewing exactly at the stitching line, and I'm checking if my lining matches up exactly. And you have to also make sure the seam lines matches both for lining seam line and for fabric seam line. Okay, so if you actually cut accurately and correctly, you will have it match up. So next, I'll be putting my hands to make sure I'm not stepping on my yoke. So you can see my hands is inside. I'm trying to draw it out so I do not step on my yoke after sewing. So I actually use the cage art method for my cup, so that's why you see it the way it is. So my lining is going to cover up the corset right now. So if you are using a bra cup for this, that is the same method. So once you get to that center front, you raise your presser foot. So I raised my presser foot now, and I dropped it back, and I'm going to sew the square part of it. So once I get to that, I'll also raise my presser foot. So what I'm practically doing is just following the already existing lines, and it makes it easy for you. So my yoke, I'm still trying to bring it out. I'm still trying to make sure I'm not stepping on it. So I just keep sewing that way. After I'm sure I've matched out my lining appropriately, I'll just follow the stitching curves, as you can see. So wherever my stitching curve stops, this is where my stitch stops, I'll back stitch at that point. I've turned my yoke right now to the right side. So I'll take off my pins. I think I saw a pin right here, so make sure you take off all pins before turning, okay? Because the next thing we want to do is to top stitch the yoke. So you can see right there, everything, my yoke which I was drawing out is perfectly laying in between the cups, and this is the center part. So everything is laying nice and flat. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to top stitch. So I'm top stitching on the part of the lining. So in top stitching, I'll just flip my seams to, all these seams will go to the part of the lining. So this is it. I'll just drop it and I'll keep sewing very close. That is top stitching. So you can see how I'm opening it up. Okay, so because I have my cage art, corset right there, that is my bust cage. So because of the caging, is somehow looking thick. So I'll just keep going that way. Just stop stitching very closely. So you can see how I'm spreading it. That is the main part of the yoke sewing. So I'll keep flipping all my seams and top stitching, and I come to the end, I back stitch. So I'll just go ahead now to press it down a little with a mild iron. Please don't use any hot iron because of your yoke. So I'll do that now. So this is what we have when we turn our yoke. Can you see that? So that is how to go about it. So we have the yoke now. So I'll just iron out a little with a mild iron to relax this part. You can equally put your hemming gum. This is my hemming gum. So I can just, cut a little as I go to my ironing table. I'll just put it in here, inside this part now, and I'll just quickly hold it down and iron out this part. Okay, so once I iron it, the yoke relaxes for me. So I'll just do that now. I'm done sewing the lining, and I've ironed it out. So you can see how the top stitches lay perfectly on the yoke, and you can see how the yoke is on the outside. So this is how it was when I top stitched. So if you actually want it to lay very well and neat the way I have, this is what I did. So I worked with my hemming gum a lot. So this is my hemming gum. I just got pieces of it, open up this and insert it. Can you see? I started at the upper piece of it this way. So once I've inserted it, next is to flip all this yoke, because this yoke can actually, if you're not careful, it can easily burn. So I just have to put it inside this way. Okay, I make sure I put it inside while I still hold it down. So I just want to show you what I did right here. So my hemming gum is there to help me stick it. I'll come with my piece of fabric I'll just double the piece of fabric right here, and with my hot iron I want to so please make sure your yoke is inside so it does not burn. Okay, if it's outside it might burn, so just keep it inside while you do this. So you can see my yoke is still intact and my lining is sticking perfectly. So I'll just do this. So as I'm going, I'll keep, remember this is hemming gum, so you have to be sure before you place. Okay, if not, once it sticks, especially with this cage add method I'm using, it might not be able to remove. So you have to be sure it sticks at the right place before you iron. Okay, so you can see it now. So for this other part, I can go ahead with my hemming gum a little more, and I'll just drop it at these edges. Okay, while I fold in this and this at these edges. So I'll just go ahead and iron out. So you must have your steam. If you have a steam iron, that would be nice. This work will be easy. So all you need is a piece of fabric for it. So you can see what I'm doing. So my iron, I'm trying to regulate it to be high, so I'll be able to get an accurate result. So you can see that. So now I can now arrange the rest of it while I gently. So now you can see my cup is finished, and my yoke, I've sewn it neatly and I've ironed it out. So that is the technique of ironing it. So you can just go ahead and iron it more so it relaxes flat and nice. So thank you very much for coming to this tutorial. So if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, turn on your notification bell to receive videos like this every day. Like this video, share to family and friends, and drop your comment on the comment section and your suggestions as well. Thank you for coming. See you in the next class. Bye.